Do you find yourself in a relationship where you are so frustrated with your partner? They don't understand what you think. They don't understand what you want. There's a contention point on certain topics that you two just cannot get on the same page. I'm aware of this because I've been there. I'm actually divorced, and this is one of the problems that I identified after my divorce, that there were tools out there to help in it, and that there were things I could have done to improve on this. And I could have done them by myself without my partner, but if my partner would have been involved, we would have been much better off and probably could have saved our marriage in some cases. What I want to do is share these with you and help you understand that, number one, they're common. It's really common for you to have a difference or a conflict in the way that you receive information, the way you give information. The trick of it is identifying and understanding how to see it. How do you know? I mean, it's so complicated and complex for you to sit down with your partner and try to explain to each other your wants and needs, because sometimes you don't even understand what they are. But the cool part is there's tools out there that are going to help you with this. I identified these tools, again, after my divorce, when it was too late, when I looked back and said, what could I have done different? How could I have fixed this? How could I have made it better? What were the things I could have done that were in my control, so that when I have this opportunity again, that I do it right? And I want to share that information with you, because what I learned in that process is, had I had this information before, I might not even have the reason to talk about this. I might still be married and doing well. So I don't bring you this information like, hey, I'm this wise wizard, even though I'm divorced. I know you don't typically go to a divorced guy for information on how to keep a marriage together, but what I can tell you is, in hindsight, seeing all the things that went wrong, I can tell you what I could have done to prevent them from happening. And it's not my information, it's information that I'm going to share with you, my sources. There's books that I'm going to recommend, people that I recommend you view or see on YouTube that are going to help you understand this even better. And I just want to give you a good dive into this type of information, so you can become educated in it and work with your partner on having a better, stronger relationship where you guys actually like to be around each other and you're not pissed off at each other all the time. The first thing I would recommend, and I wish I would have done this sooner, is personality tests. The one that I recommend the highest is Myers-Briggs. It's the MBTI test. A lot of times you can take this thing for free. You can pay the extra money and get the full report, which I would recommend. I recommend you do it and your partner, because the cool part is you're going to read through this thing and you're going to be like, how the heck does this thing know so much about me? And there's going to be parts that are going to piss you off, like, I hate me. You think hard enough, it's you. It's almost annoying how dead on this thing is. And the cool part of it is it talks about your strengths, it talks about your partner's strengths, it talks about your weaknesses and your partner's weaknesses. And you guys might identify some things that, in your relationship, your partner should be handling because they're better than you are at it. There's things that you should be handling because you're better than they are at it. And then the thing that I thought was the most valuable is, in my description, it talked about where my contention points will be with most people because of my personality. Like, I had a pretty rare personality type, and there was this one section that it said, you will be really difficult to other people because of this. This is how your brain works. The majority of the population's brain does not work like yours. It does not do this certain thing. So knowing that, I paid attention to it, and I've deliberately made changes so that I'm easier to be around in that scenario. And I think this is a great tool to help you be better everywhere, better in your career, better in your family, better with your kids. But I saw a huge opportunity to apply this to a spouse. And I actually saw this, we learned about this when we were doing team building at work. And I was reading through this and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I actually had my ex-wife take the test, and I looked at the two. And that's how I was able to identify, man, we could have used it like this. And when I found out, one of the biggest things, and I remember fighting with her all the time about this, we'd be getting ready for a weekend to do something. I'd be like, hey, here are the choices, X, Y, Z. What do you want to do? And I want an answer right now. That's my personality type. My personality type is answer right now. I gave you a question, I need an answer. It's one of the most challenging things. I'm a fast thinker. I already have went through all the variables. I know what answers I'm okay with. I'm okay with any of the ones that I give you as an option. It doesn't matter. I don't, in my mind, you're overthinking it. Don't think about it, right? Just pick the one that you want. That's how I would react to her. Like, hey, what's your answer? What do you want? I'm waiting. I gotta book the hotel. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. She'd get really upset with me. She'd get really tense, and we would get in these fights, and I just couldn't understand it. I'm like, how the hell are we fighting over this? I'm trying to take us on a vacation. I'm trying to go somewhere. This is stupid. When I looked at my personality type versus hers, her personality type was the complete opposite. She needed a lot of time to make a decision. In some cases, days. And what I learned is, had I known this, I could have been proactive at it, because I'm fine with that. I can make adjustments in my life. And I wanted to in this case. And had I known, I would have. Where, maybe I needed to give her information on Tuesday and let her know, be like, hey, I'm gonna book this on Thursday, so give me an answer by Thursday. I'm just letting you know what I'm thinking. I could have built a structure that worked better for her and kept her from being pissed off at me, thinking I'm a brammy jerk that just demands that everything's got to be on your time. And it's like, I don't mean it that way. That was not my intention. And I'm sure you find yourself in your relationship this way. You're doing stuff and you're like, why are they taking it that way? That's not how I intend it. Well, it's because your personality types are misaligned. They think that you're like them and you think they're like you. That's not the case with any humans. And the sooner you do something like this and understand it, I would recommend you have all your kids take this test, and you can help your kids understand how to communicate with each other through this test. It gives you the tools to be a really smart psychologist level person in your family. If you're a dad watching this, or a mom, I'm telling you, you take this Myers-Briggs test, have everybody in your family take it, and you guys all sit down at the table and work through it. It is really interesting when you learn the way that the reason fights start. You're going to see why fights start between your kids, because of the conflict in their opinions and in the way that they process information. And it also tells you what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. So if they got weaknesses, as a parent, you can work with them to help develop them into a stronger individual focused on developing their weaknesses. You don't need to worry about their strengths. They're going to naturally grow and flourish, but they maybe need help in their weaknesses, and they don't know what they are. So how are you supposed to help them? These are really, really great tools that give you a look into another person and give you the ability to constructively make a difference in each other's lives. As it pertains to relationships, this is a book that I'm going to recommend, but I want to explain a little bit. The book is called The 3% Man by Corey Wayne. Really great author. When you start to read this book, you're going to be like, man, this is a hookup book. This guy is teaching dudes how to get girls. And later in the book, towards the end, the final chapters, he starts to rope it back around and talk about, this isn't just for hooking up. This is for keeping the opposite sex interested and engaged. It is a positive, helpful tool for a married couple to read this book and understand what the impact of balanced masculinity and femininity is. And I think both sexes can read this book, both partners can read this book and get something from it. You got to get out of your head that you're reading a hookup book and try to take out the content. The content of this book is incredibly valuable. It teaches you the science of masculinity and femininity. And it literally will help you explain some really interesting things that I correlated, and he talks about directly, is a lot of cases, long-term in a relationship, you're spending a lot of time with your wife, constantly butting heads because you haven't done this Myers-Briggs and you don't know what they want. You're just doing, you're at your wit's end. It's like, I will do anything. You decide, you do all of this. That submissiveness as a man, giving into your wife, even though it's out of love, you're trying to find common ground, actually creates a problem in your relationship. It makes you unattractive to her, because if you're in a balanced relationship and say you're the masculine and she's the feminine, and you suddenly take a feminine role of submissiveness, which is what that is, she's going to try to compensate subconsciously, because naturally in science we will balance the level of masculinity and femininity in our relationship. And when one person takes a stronger role they don't belong in, so if the femininity is trying to masculinate and take over for you because you've become submissive, that's when you incur this point where you think your wife's being a bitch, or you think your partner's being an awful jerk. It's because they're uncomfortable. They don't know how to be that element, but they're trying to compensate it in the relationship. You need to maintain whatever portion you're responsible for. If you're the feminine, you need to maintain the feminine. You need to maintain the masculine if you're the masculine. And if either of you slip, the other one tries to compensate. And this book teaches you about that and helps you understand the science behind it and how to playfully, helpfully maintain some dominance as the masculine so that you can make the feminine feel comfortable and safe to be feminine. And then you keep this balance in your relationship. I can pick some of my friends that are still together and see where the guy didn't change. He stayed the same as he was when they met. He did not give in, and they're still together. She always acts like she's frustrated because, oh, he doesn't do this and he doesn't. I look at her and I'm like, I've got this book I read, and if he does that, you guys are going to have a worse relationship than you've ever had. The reason you guys are together and you're still interested is because he's still the same guy you met the day you met him, and you loved that guy. And it's really important to keep these balances, but if you don't know about them, if you don't understand them, if you've never done the research, you're screwed. That's the bottom line. Like, getting this information, absorbing it, educates you on being a professional at maintaining your relationship, at keeping things balanced and alive, and doing your due diligence in your relationship to be everything that you should be for your partner. And this is a two-person job, right? Both people should be participating in this. But one thing I did learn is even one person having this information gives them a huge advantage and ability to navigate this. Another thing I would recommend is the 5 Love Languages. It's a really good book to read. It tells you about how to read your partner, how to identify what their needs are without them telling you. And really, the gist of this whole thing is getting the tools for you to become educated enough to understand your partner, understand their needs, and be able to provide that. That's all you want to do. All of us just want to give to them whatever they need to be happy. You pick them in a relationship because you want to make their life better. You don't want to make it worse. And we find ourselves in these situations where we're scrambling to try and figure that out. These are the tools that give you the ability to do that. So hopefully this gives you the information you need. I'll attach the books and stuff below so you can just check them through the link. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I go on my Facebook and DM it. You can keep it a private conversation. I know this stuff is kind of taboo and people are uncomfortable talking about it. I'll respond to you and give you the information that I found that supports whatever it is that you're trying to figure out. I'll give you a little bit of my opinion on it, but I'm going to give you the information that I read or found that pertains to the problem you're dealing with so I can try to help you out. And odds are, if you've got a question about it, probably a bunch of other people do too, and I'll try to, make a video here. I'll never bring up who you are, so don't worry about your questions being brought up or your name of the person being brought up. I will just bring it up as a common topic. So hopefully you got something from this video. Thanks for checking it out. Have a good one.